I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
Hello, everybody, and good evening to this wonderful, beautiful show tonight, Into the Night, with me, your host, Sean Kelly. And I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 Mississippi, 107.7 New Orleans. And what a day it was, okay? High 30, kind of cold, but you know what? I'm here, so I was supposed to be here tonight, okay? Why I'm so pumped up and so happy about it, because I just got off the Orion Effect with Rhonda and the hitman Ed Odell. It was the Orion Effect, and I was a guest on their show tonight, and it was a great one. I had a fun time. Ed Odell and Rhonda are wonderful people, and I just had a good time. And I tell you what, before December ends, I'm going to have Ed on and along with Rhonda too. See who walked into the chat room tonight. Hey, Mish, good to see you. Sally, Donna, hey Ed, good to see you. Thank you for letting me be on your show tonight. Cindy, Mitch, Tara, good to see you. Vet Girl, always a pleasure. Tried your cranberry sauce the other day. It turned out pretty decent. I think I'm going to make it again. So that was a good recipe, and I really enjoyed it. I got a lot of good compliments on it, which was great. Okay. And Kevin, always good and pleasure to see you. Brian, good to see you. Gary, good to see you. And I'm not going to say no evil to Aaron Rodgers. None at all, buddy. I don't even watch it, dude. I just check out the score on my phone, and if I think it's interesting, then I'll watch it. But if I see it's a blowout, it's going to be a blowout. But don't forget, right after my show tonight at 9:10 p.m. Eastern, you're going to have Don Yazzie with his podcast, podcast, Don't Whistle at Night. So after my show tonight, if you can, go over there and give him some love, um, and enjoy shows, because he always has good guests on. And he's a good brother. A brother from another mother. That's all I say. But I don't know. Life is good. Life is good today. I cooked some chicken thighs tonight, put onions on them and soaked them with salt, pepper, and then some little bit of garlic salt on it. and I put cream of mushroom soup on top of them and baked them. Oh my God, were they good. I sure did love it. Thank you, Batgirl. You need a good recipe, go seek out that, because she has a good recipe, especially for cranberry stuff. It was good. But okay, on to the show tonight. So we are coming up into December, okay, and you know what that means. December comes around. That means Christmas is coming in. And I thought I'd do something different tonight, okay? Now, I have two favorite Christmas shows, okay, stories that I watch on TV, okay? It's a Wonderful Life is the number one movie, and A Christmas Carol is the second, right? And anybody that really, hey, Marquetti, good to see you. And if you really want to know who I am and where I came from and where I got to today, just watch the Miracle one, But two, I just lost my thought. To A Christmas Carol, okay? And for some reason, I used to watch it all the time. Hey, Joni, I used to watch it all the time. And every now and then, maybe in the middle of summer, I'll watch it again. And it seems like I can relate to Ebenezer Scrooge. I really can. I mean, during my life, during recovery, even before recovery, I was a miserable son of a bitch is what I was. And that's the truth. I cannot lie to you guys at all. But so I said to myself, Self, why don't I do a show on A Christmas Carol? Now, we all seen the movies, and we all know about the ghost, and we all know about Ebenezer. But we never really talk about the author, Charles Dickens, and he wrote it. Okay. And so he's stalking me. That's okay, Lisa. You can stalk me all you want. That's okay. But I'm going to talk about, for the first part of the show, about Charles Dickens, and if we have time, get into the ghost. But no one talks about why Charles Dickens wrote the book. And so I kind of lucked out, and I found some stuff here online that talks about it. So I'm going to explain it to you. Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol primarily as a powerful work of social commentary to highlight the plight of the poor during the Industrial Revolution and to advocate for charity and social reform. His motivations were also personal and financial. And from what I understand, Joni says, I enjoy A Christmas Carol with Sir Patrick Stewart as Scrooge. I don't like Patrick Stewart, so I like the original one. Oh, no, who's Scrooge, the one with Bill Murray. Oh, my God, is that funny? But I love it. It just goes to show you what you've gone in life. And, wow, I just got a chill here. Lisa said A Christmas Carol was the first ever play I went to when I was a kid. I've loved it ever since. That's awesome. That's cool. And Kevin Mike's a good story, and that's true. It's a good story. But from what I understand, Dickens was married and he had like 4 or 5 children, okay? And he was going broke. So he got the idea of writing a book, The Christmas Carol, in order to make some money. Because that was for his financial part. But If we get into it a little bit more, maybe the other reasons will be coming up too. Okay, we got some reasons. The key reasons of writing the book included social reform. Dickens was horrified by the brutal realities of poverty and the conditions of child labor detailed in the 1843 Children's Employment Commission report. He initially planned a political pamphlet, but decided to write a story would have 20,000 times the force in convincing the public to open their hearts and practice benevolence. And I really, just to get, the information, why, what was going on in Dickens' mind, you know, during that. And he said, well, let me write a book. And you know what? To think of it, ladies and gentlemen out there, we all should write a book, and I bet you we will come up with our own Christmas carol, but in a different way. I know I would. I mean, mine would be a trilogy, to be honest with you. But for Dickens to do it for social reform, and just horrified by the realities of poverty. If you look at it, what's the one story that he has? It's not Christmas Carol. It's about the kids that stole stuff. If anybody can tell me the name of that movie, it looks back at that. I don't know the name of the movie though. His personal experience with poverty. Dickens had a difficult childhood after his father, check this out, ladies and gentlemen, was sent to a debtor's prison, forcing 12-year-old Charles to work in a shoe blacking factory. This experience left a lasting impression and fueled his lifelong concern for the poor man's child and his critique of institutions like workhouses. Oliver, you're right, Joni, it was Oliver. Tale of Two Cities was a good book, too. In fact, that's the only book I read in high school that I liked, The Tale of Two Cities. You know what? The Christmas Story, I I can't watch that movie because it's so damn boring, and everybody thinks it's like one of the best stories out there with Ralph. No, you're right. Oliver Twist. I don't know what you guys think of the Christmas Story. Everybody thinks it's funny, and I don't. I think it's the most boring show. And I know here in Pittsburgh, um, they play it 24 hours a day. I don't know how y'all can watch that something like that. um, but he was an avid. The book was also for an advocacy for the poor. The novel was designed to prick the conscience of the preposterous middle and upper classes, personified by the misery Scrooge. Dickens used the allegorical figures of ignorance and want shown at the feet of the ghost of Christmas present to warn society that neglecting the poor would lead to future hardships and potential social upheaval. So far from what I've read, and that's good, Sally. I know. Good. There's another one that can't stand it. But you think about it, right? Okay, so far from the last two things I read, he was somebody for, a voice for the poor. And you know that today we don't have nobody like that. We don't. Because right now, um, no one's there to speak up for, the middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor people. There isn't. So if you really look at it so far, Scrooge wrote this back in what, 1843? I forget what he wrote it in, but it's just like the same shit has never changed from back then to today. Mitch says, let's be kind only at Christmas. You got to be kind. But there's a lot of people that are so totally depressed and not happy during Christmas. So how I say give somebody a hug if you don't have no parents or children. And you need to give them a hug because there's a lot of depressed people out there right now, and the holidays are the crazy. It's not a good time. So another thing he wrote the book was his financial need. Be kind always. Joni, you have to. I do agree with that. You have to be kind, and I try to be kind as much as I can. Because here's the deal for me. You know, if there was any way that I wasn't kind or I treated somebody like a piece of crap, okay, I seriously would have ulcers. I couldn't deal with it. And I guess that's the empath in me. Okay. Don't get me wrong. Okay. When I drank, I wasn't a nice person at all. I was an asshole. But we won't go there tonight. But yeah, I would feel bad if I treated somebody like crap. I couldn't deal with it. Hey Michelle, good to see you. Good to see you, hon. Um, his financial need. At the time, sales of his novel, Martin Chuzzlewit, were flagging. I guess that was another book. His wife was pregnant with their fifth child and he was under financial pressure. He hoped that Christmas Carol would be a commercial success, which he wrote in a remarkable 6 weeks. He wrote that book in 6 weeks. Isn't that insane? That book is huge, man. That's a lot of writing. And then the shape in modern Christmas celebrations had declined in popularity and were often sedate one-day affair during the Victorian era. Drawing on nostalgic memories of his own childhood and older traditions, Dickens wove together themes of family, generosity, and goodwill to help shape and popularize the modern humanitarian focused Christmas holiday, what we know today. The guy was smart. The guy was smart. And when I read this, I already read this and I looked it up, and there was some stuff that I had to double check. I mean, for somebody to go out, yeah, to make money on writing a book, but to go out there and be an advocate for people. I never knew that about Charles Dickens. Never did. I'm glad he wrote the book because it's one of my favorite books out there. The movie's better. And through A Christmas Carol, Dickens aimed to make readers laugh and cry and ultimately encourage them to become kinder, more charitable people. The story's immense popularity and enduring legacy are a testament to his success in achieving that goal. Interesting. And that was my phone, everybody. But what an interesting man. What an interesting story. I'm going to be taking a break. I hope somebody learned a little bit about that. Um, you know, the reason why Dickens, I thought that was pretty interesting, why he wrote the book. Kevin says, working in retail, some say we are not allowed to say Merry Christmas in case we offend someone who identifies as a squirrel, probably, so I just say scary Mary meow meow to confuse the masses. You know what, Kevin? I'm glad you brought that up because you all know that I work in retail. Hey, Joe Fox. What's up, buddy? You know that for a fact that I work in retail. And I say Merry Christmas. They tell me, no, you can't say that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can. No one can tell me what to say and not what to say. And if the people, when I say Merry Christmas to someone, okay, and they don't like it, you know what? That's on them. I'm not out to please them. It's going to be Merry Christmas all the time for me. I was raised that way. That's how I was taught, and that's how I'm going to go. You know, like my motto is that I will respect what you believe. Just please respect what I believe. Sean says, "Watch me, Merry Christmas." That's right, Michelle. Absolutely. I ain't afraid to say it. I almost got in trouble for saying it, and I'm like, "What are you going to write me out for?" Because I said Merry Christmas. Joe Fox says, "I will constantly wish everyone a Merry Christmas until the day I get called home." I agree. I'm glad you do that, Joe. I'm glad you do, because that's the same way with me. No more happy holidays. It's Merry Christmas. Now, we're going to go into the break, okay, for a couple minutes, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more on the personal side of A Christmas Carol with me. So, now I'll be back in 2 minutes. And everybody go and get something to drink, do what you got to do, go to the bathroom, do what you need to do, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. So enjoy your break. Oh, hold on.
Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night podcast, where Navajo legends echo in the shadows. Darren and Dawn will guide you through the sacred fire of Native storytelling, where the old stories breathe, the unknown walks among us, and voices, long hidden, rise to be heard. And remember, don't whistle at night.
The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation. I have come, it's cold and losing my control.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second half of Into the Night with me, your host, Sean Kelly. Just a couple announcements before I continue on to the show. First of all, I'm just checking out what people wrote. So I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio 105.3 Mississippi, 107.7 New Orleans for allowing me to give you two shows on Sunday night and Tuesday nights from 8:10 to 9:10 p.m. I'm really grateful for them. Also got to give a shout out to my friend Mr. Don Yazzie um, for allowing. I'm not allowing, but he has a show on. I'm just so happy tonight that I'm messing up my words. But he has a great show, Don't Whistle at Night. His podcast comes on at 9:10 p.m. tonight. So whenever you're done um, watching mine, just go over and check him out. Also, want to say that I was on the Orion Effect podcast tonight before my show, and that's with Rhonda and the Hitman Ed Odell. So I don't know if a lot of people know Ed out there, but he's a pretty cool dude, and um, and so is Rhonda. So what I am going to do, hopefully, I can get them on my show before the new year, which I think would be great. At the beginning, in the first part of the show, we were talking about why Charles Dickens wrote the story, The Christmas Carol, and it was a pretty interesting thing that we were talking about. Really don't want to get into it again. Basically, what Charles Dickens actually did was he was a voice for he was an advocate for the poor people and the low middle class people back in the 1800s when he wrote this book, and also for personal reasons. So, if you want to catch the first part, all you got to do is just go to my Facebook page, Sean Kelly, and you can watch the first half. I have some new comments here, that when we went to break, I just want to see what people were writing. Joe Fox says, I will constantly wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Johnny works in retail, and Kevin says, my way at laughing at them is so ridiculous. Mish says, the thing in other countries come and live in our countries are expecting us to change. Why did they leave their country? So frustrating. Totally understandable, Mish. And Joe says, some hold my Merry effing Christmas, bitches. I like that one, Kevin. Don't think you can drink on the job. No, I cannot drink, and I will never drink. That says hold my coffee. So I just really, it's like one of my favorite ones. My favorite books, my Christmas stories. The other one is It's a Wonderful Life. Okay, so I'm talking a lot here. But what I want to do now is get into personal reasons why I like Christmas Carol. And if you want to, please share, if you watch the movie, if you ever, what part of the movie that helped you through your life. Okay. So we're going to talk about the ghost right now. Whoop, okay. Joe Fox says, when I drank beer 25 years ago, I felt much better. A Christmas Carol features 4 ghosts. Jacob Marley, Scrooge's deceased business partner, and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. And Marley is my favorite ghost, and I have a little story to tell you about that. I was in early recovery in AA, and my wife at the time, she took my little boy down to Ohio to her brother's house, and they were having Christmas. And so I was a little down, and this is a true story, everybody. So I was a little down, and so when I went home, I went to the AA Christmas party that they have here every year in Pittsburgh. And I was with friends, so I was in a good place. So when I got home, I turned the TV on, and what movie was playing but A Christmas Carol. So that's one thing that Spirit said, okay, all right, Sean, we're gonna wake you up a little bit. And so I watched a little bit of it, and then I went to bed. And exactly 12 o'clock, my telephone goes off. And our ringer at the time sounded like the chains that Jacob Marley had. And I was like scared shitless because I was waiting to see Jacob Marley come into my bedroom. And I went to answer it, and here was the guy I was sponsoring in AA. And I just wanted to know if I was okay. So that was my story on Christmas Carol. Knowing, my phone ringing, it sounded like Jacob Marley's Chains. Okay. And so to me, Jacob Marley is the best ghost out of all of them. Who's your favorite ghost out there, everybody? If you wish to put it in the chat, please do. I'd love to tell everybody. Jacob Marley is the ghost of Scrooge's business partner, who appears first to warn him in the consequences of his life choices. Kevin says, love that story, Sean. Thank you. It was an eye awakening. Thank you, Kevin. Marley's a great choice. Thank you, Mark. He is bound with heavy chains, which represents the wealth he hoarded in life. Thank you, Cindy. And so that's why, you look at the ghost of Jacob Marley, and he's there trying to warn Ebenezer about, if he keeps hoarding all the money and treating people like shit and not giving them any money, he's going to end up like him because he's bound to earth. Jacob Marley is. And he says, Ebenezer, you better get your shit together. Oh, good night, Mish. And that's how I felt, kind of relating to Jacob Marley, you know what I mean? Because I hoarded a lot of shit, you know what I mean? But as the story goes on, my life changes. And the first ghost that comes up after Marley says is the ghost of Christmas past. It's a spirit that resembles a flickering candle flame and represents memory. It takes Scrooge on a journey through his childhood and young adulthood, showing him both joyful moments and the events that led to his bitterness, such as his separation from his fiancée Belle. Now, do you think we should have our own Christmas past? Or do you think we should just close our eyes and meditate and think back before when things were happier? And then something drastic changed, and all of a sudden all hell broke loose and you become miserable. And I keep reading about this because I read about these ghosts earlier. And it's it's like maybe when I was at 30 years old, I wouldn't give a shit about, these Christmas past. But the older I get now, it's like I read it and I'm thinking, holy crap. It's just an eye awakening. It's like I've been through meditations of some sort, I don't know. But I can really understand Ebenezer's past, where he's a happy-go-lucky kid, and all of a sudden shit hits the fan, and all of a sudden he's not a happy man no more. And I think I would have to say we all experienced what Ebenezer went through in the past, where we had it right and it all went to hell. Now you got the ghost of the Christmas present. He's a jolly giant spirit adorned with a robe of green leaves, representing the abundance and joy of the present moment. This ghost shows Scrooge the vibrant celebrations of others. And particularly but loving but a poor Cratchit family, makes him feel pity for Tiny Tim. Kevin says, always found that interesting. Ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Yeah. But think about it, Kevin. You meditate and you got where you are right now by meditating. Do you think it's possible, that Dickens was meditating when he wrote this one? Do you think when you did meditate, do you actually think that maybe not a spirit, but maybe your spirit guide, knew what kind of shit you were going through in your life at that time? And so, that ghost that came to you in your dream um, kind of like hits you over side of the head, you know. Now, Tiny Tim is sad, okay, and I'm glad the Ghost of Christmas Present did that to him, you know, and it just kind of like awakening him. You know, you go watch the movie, and the ghost, he kind of like shows Ebenezer, you know, about Tiny Tim, Bob Cratchit, who works for him, you know, is Tiny Tim's father, and they're dirt poor, you know, and and so when it gets down to the time when Scrooge is saying, well, what happened to Tiny Tim? What happened to Tim? The ghost didn't say nothing but disappeared. Oh my God, that was, you know, that could have been me, you know, thinking, okay, what the hell happened? Why'd you leave me? Why didn't you tell me the ending of this story? But I guess the lesson behind that for Ebenezer was that, if you continue going on in life, you know, maybe if you opened up your eyes and if you opened up your heart, that you could actually see what could happen or what you can do for the child that, you know, that has a problem with his legs. Kevin says, oh yeah, in meditative state of mind and writing in meditative, we can get all kinds of spiritual downloads. Indeed, yes, we can. And maybe, you know, think about it, Kevin. When he wrote this book in 6 weeks, it's very possible that he was in meditation and he started to write. You know, we will never know, but it's very possible that he can. I just, when it comes to Tiny Tim, you know, I knew a lot of people, a lot of kids that weren't right. There's something wrong with them. And I wasn't nice. I wasn't a nice person. And every time, you know, I look at Christmas Present, and when I read this today, I look back at all the negativity that I did in my life. Just popped up. And I was like, holy crap, this is so me. Heidi, I hope you feel better. I know you're listening, hon. You know, you got to get better, man. I'm going to send you some healing energies. But, yeah. I was a bastard when I was reading this shit growing up back then. And maybe it took me 63 years to realize what it was like when I was young, how such a bastard I was. Kevin says, to me, writing, drawing brings me to a meditation state of mind. So yes, absolutely. I bet you he was in a meditation state when he wrote this book. Okay, and then the fat last one. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. A silent, shrouded, and ominous specter that represents the fear of death and future consequences. This ghost shows Scrooge a grim future if he doesn't change his ways, including his own death and the fate of Tiny Tim. Boy, I tell you what, I could definitely relate to that, okay, about that third ghost. And it was an eye awakening for me. And as you know, at the end of the movie, after all the ghosts visited him, Scrooge woke up and he was a happy-go-lucky dude. You know, bought the biggest turkey, over to You can send it over to the Cratchits so they can have a turkey dinner. Tiny Tim was alive. He gave out all kinds of money to everybody. He even let Bob Cratchit go home on Christmas. It changed them. The spirits changed them. And what was crazy, though, about the whole thing is he was happy. A lot of people are looking at him like, what the hell's wrong with you? Or, get away from me. You're a miserable bastard. Why are you so happy? You don't need to. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who this person is. But what really hit me hard was whenever he went to Bob Cratchit's place. Okay, when he went to Bob Cratchit's place, and he walked in, and the mother and the daughters, the mother and the daughters just called him every freaking name in the book, and they were mean. But what was crazy was the only friend that Scrooge had, honestly, was Bob Cratchit. And I had a couple Bob Cratchits. And thank God for Bob Cratchits. That's all I can say. And the Bob Cratchits that were part of my life were my sponsors when I was in recovery. Like I told you guys before and all the time, I was a bastard growing up. And in my 30s, 20s. And then all of a sudden I got sober and oh my God, people were like, didn't want to be around me. So I used to be mean. I really was. I was mean. People didn't want nothing to do with me. So if it wasn't for my Bob Cratchit friends, I don't know where I'd be at today. That's why this movie, A Christmas Carol, or Scrooge, or whatever, is really important to me. Because it shows me how I was. What? The moon is filling up, upside fallen again? Okay. I don't know about that one, Kevin. You come up with some good ones, buddy. But today I have a ton of Bob Cratchits out there who got my back, who care for me, and I can be happy around them and they would be happy along with me. And if I was depressed or miserable, they would probably kick my ass and say, Sean, get out of it and get back to life again. Get back to reality. And that's what I do. And like I said at the beginning, my second movie was It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. I cried and just even saying that. If you seriously really want to know what my life was, watch It's a Wonderful Life. I'm serious, guys. If you really want to know who I am. And instead of, Jimmy Stewart playing the lead, just put me in that lead. It'll blow you away. Let's see. Well, that's all I have on the Christmas Carol. Is there anybody out there in the chat that would like to tell me what their favorite Christmas story was? Did you have any fun Christmas traditions that you did? Did you watch a movie? Did you bake Santa Claus some cookies? You know what my dad used to do? We put out cookies for Santa Claus, right? Thank you, Kevin. Seriously. Thank you, Kevin. And just come back and tell me what you think if you want. But my dad used to put out Christmas cookies for Santa, a glass of milk. But what he also did was he would throw Cheerios out on the porch so we could feed the reindeer. And he would get up before you go to bed. Me and my brother would be sleeping, and he'd go out on the front porch if we had snow, and he'd make little, deer poop hooves. It was really cool. And he would spill some of the Cheerios around. It was great. It was good. That was like one of the best things about Christmas that I actually look forward to. And maybe you can call me Ebenezer Scrooge today, but it just seems like Christmas isn't like it used to be. To me, we were poor. Carrots for the reindeer. Okay, that's cool. Back then, we didn't have a lot of money, so we got what our parents could afford us, and just to get something underneath the tree, God, it was special. But now it just seems like people want TVs, they want phones, they want computers, they want a car. That girl says candy cane chocolate chip cookies for Santa. Ooh, interesting. But Christmas is all commercialized now. All Christmas is now is that you spend a shitload of money and then you open up your present underneath the Christmas tree Christmas morning. And then the very next day you take it back to get money. Kevin says, no, I thought you were talking about the movie Scrooge. Oh, I'm not calling you Scrooge, jeez. No, I'm calling myself Scrooge, I think. Because to me, Christmas is just another day. I would rather give than receive. Because I received a lot in my life, and it was all good. Some of it was bad. But I'd rather give. I'd rather see people smile. And if it isn't a present, if it isn't money, just a hello, and that Merry Christmas that you say to them with a smile. As long as the person is smiling, who I am talking to, that's my Christmas present to them. Kevin says, yeah, it's more a spiritual feeling for me. It's for the cats. No, it's spiritual for me, Kev. It's all spiritual, and I don't know. I like to eat. We have a lot of food around Christmas, and we don't have nobody over. It's my mom's birthday, so we have a small birthday party for her on Christmas Eve. So we do the best that we can. Oh, okay. That says it's a recipe for chocolate chip cookies, but I crumble candy canes and add in and decorate with mini candy cane. That's cool. That's sweet. Thank you for sharing that, Bet. But we are getting close to the end of time here for the show. I hope everybody enjoyed it tonight. I hope, somebody learned a little bit of a lesson on it. Okay, that's cool. Keeping it simple is the best, Kev. And I hope people learned about Charles Dickens tonight. I hope people, little history on why he wrote The Christmas Carol. And, who knows, maybe later on, not tonight, but down the road, something comes up and you're saying, oh my God, I remember that on Sean's show. Who knows what's going to happen. But it is December and I'm going to do a lot of Christmas shows. So, and that's what I do, Christmas shows. So if you can, children, before I go, just remember that Mr. Don Yazzie, his podcast is coming up at 9:10 p.m. tonight. And it's Don't Whistle at Night. And you have to tune in because he's good people, man. He always has good guests. So again, when you're done with mine, watching my show, just pop on over to his. Children, if you can, please go to your parents, give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And parents, please give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And if you don't have no children, and if you don't have no parents, find somebody and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. Because those 3 words, I love you, go a long way. And on that note, everybody, good night, and I will see you Tuesday night.